All right. Well, welcome. My name is Isaac Lee. Hey, Jason, you want to stand up for a moment and introduce yourself?
Yeah.
All right.
Jason Phillips with Hoops for Hope International, and we'll talk more about what Hoops for Hope is, and that's my role there, kind of to grow the ministry and kind of do things like this to kind of get the word out.
Yeah. What's your background, Jason? You look at your time with Hoops for Hope and where you come from.
3 years with Hoops for Hope, and then I actually was on staff at Columbus Avenue Baptist Church, the old, from Waco. Who's from Waco? The old rec center down there, the old Y. The church bought that back in the 90s, and so I ran that building and did some exercise, facility management, that kind of thing, and then been with Hoops for 3 years, been on some trips, and then just trying to grow new partners and find people that want to use basketball as a way to share the gospel. So yeah, I've got 2 kids. One's at ACU. She runs long distance there, and she's going to graduate this year. And then my son, I think we failed as parents. He's going to A&M, but we'll take it. No, it's been fun. So those, and my wife, we've been married 25 years. She's a counselor here in town. So yeah.
Yeah, in my background, I graduated with a Bachelor of Physical Education as my undergrad. I went on to get a Master of Divinity from Taylor Seminary up in Edmonton, Alberta. But I served 13 years with Athletes in Action in the local campus ministry. So I had an opportunity to walk alongside students and student athletes and help them know more about Jesus. And then along the way after that, I discovered this Faith in Sports Institute, this amazing opportunity to come down to Truett Seminary at Baylor University and serve as the program manager for continuing education. And so, since we have a bit of a smaller group here, I figured it might be great to get to know you guys a little bit more, and perhaps some of your interest in this field as you think about using sports as outreach and ministry. So, where are you guys coming from, and what interests you about this topic? Anybody can kind of share. Yeah.
Well, I'm here from Waco, and I've always been with children in school and stuff, and I supported anything to keep them off the streets.
Yeah, so seeing that as an opportunity.
Keep them out of trouble and save their soul at the same time.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of sport right there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Other interests you think about the missional aspect of sport or what sports offers? Yeah.
So like I said, we took a quick class fellowship over here from Truett. But when it comes to my passion for faith in sports, definitely have a long history of doing sports and almost at the collegiate level, but definitely experiencing some traumatic injuries with that. And so I actually own the Christian athletic apparel brand and devotional brand, and so definitely looking at expanding to doing more things for students of collegiate level, high school, elementary, professional. Just been working on growing that a lot, and so definitely have a deep passion for sports ministry. And even those in coaching positions as well, administering them as well. So yeah,
that's awesome.
What's the name of the company?
220 Vision from Galatians 2:20.
That's awesome.
Anybody else? Any thoughts as you think about this topic, or what intrigues you about using sports
Hi,
outreach and ministry?
my name is Julius Collins. I am from Liberia, that's in West Africa, if you don't know that. Basically, we grew up playing soccer.
Yes.
You don't have to be good at it, it's the thing that we do. And then when I moved to the US, I also realized that most of the kids, everywhere playing basketball or something like that. And I've always been involved with youth ministries, and so I think that this is one of the ways that you can bring your faith as kids play soccer or whatever game they play. You get along with them. You can use that to share the faith.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think you touch on some of the key things that Jason and I really want to present and share about the opportunities within sports to create outreach and ministry. And so as Jimmy invited us in, we were excited to be able to jump into this topic, to be able to share it, because it's both a passion of ours to see how we can use sports as an opportunity to share the gospel and serve people. So a bit of our goal for our time together is to introduce the idea, I had idea twice there, that sports is a powerful tool to share the gospel. We also want to give you a theological perspective on sports and theology. Not sure if you ever thought about that through a biblical Christian lens of what is a theological perspective of sport. We want to discuss some of the ideas for local ministry outreach, so within our communities and neighborhoods, but also what it looks like to develop opportunities globally. And so something that Jason has a lot of experience with. And then along the way, we hope that within it, there's some practical tools on how to share the gospel and how you can think about and reframe the ways that you might think about sports as outreach. As we think of these kind of goals that we have, is there anything that you specifically would like to kind of gather or gain from our time together? Because as we think about it as a workshop, we're wrestling with, okay, what does a workshop look like? We really want this to be kind of interactions with you guys. So is there anything specific?
I
Yes.
just have a quick question.
Yeah.
Could you move the podium
Oh, yeah.
this way? It's just,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah.
It's just taking up the bottom.
Yeah. Anything apart from this that you have a question or a desire to kind of hopefully gather from our time together? All right, if it comes up, just let us know, and we'll try to dive into that. But with any sport, there's competition. And so, I didn't tell Jason this, but I'm going to do a bit of a competition here, a bit of a prize giveaway. This is my colleague's book, a brand new book they released this year. And so it's gotten a lot of great reviews. And so, with this, I want you to, maybe on your own, we have a small crowd, answer some of these questions, and we'll see who has the most answers out of them. All right.
So since I didn't know about this, can I participate?
Sure. We'll allow you to
Okay.
jump in there, Jason. All right. What is the most popular sport in the world? Okay, just ponder on that for a second. Or I'm not going to have you answer that. I'm just going to go through the questions. So you take down these notes. We're going to go on the honor system if you actually get them all right. Okay? So you think about the answers to these. What is the most popular sport in the world? Ponder that for a second. Think about that. Think about not only North America, but regions around the world. Okay, next question is, how many people are fans of this specific sport, the most popular sport? Think about that. How many fans watch, engage, take in this specific sport that you might be thinking of? So think about that for a moment. Think about like the globe, think about all the different sports that are going out there. All right, next question is, how many people actually participate in the sport? Not just fans of the sport, but actually are engaged in this sport. They're practicing it, they're playing it, recreational, professionally, different levels. And then this one's a bit of a different one, different question, but still kind of flows out of the same area, is what do you think is the approximate global revenue of all sports? Revenue that is brought in could be like shirt sales, could be registration fees, could be media rights and things like that. What's the approximate dollar value that it brings in? Okay, as you have these in your head, I want you to kind of mark if you got them right or wrong, or how close you think you are. So, as you might know and think, the most popular sport in the world is football, European football. So soccer. So if you got that one, put a check mark in your head or on your sheet. The next answer or the question is, how many people play soccer, or sorry, are fans of soccer in the world? These are estimates that I believe FIFA had come together with. And it's 3.5 to 4 billion people in the world are fans and watch and engage in soccer. Did anybody get that right? 3.5 to 4 billion. You got that?
4 million.
4 billion? Nice. Okay, you got 2 down. All right. The next question. How many people play the beautiful game of soccer in the world? Any guesses on how many people?
2 billion.
2 billion? Okay.
I got 100,000.
100,000?
Maybe like 2 to 3 billion, maybe.
Okay. Not as that high. So actual participation, so fans are a lot higher. There's 250 to 300 million who are actually engaged in recreational or professional or some sort of league in soccer. And then here's the final question. What do you think is the global revenue of sports throughout the world?
Oh, I read that wrong.
What do you think?
$100 billion.
$100 billion. Okay, we got one there.
50 billion.
50 billion. Any other guesses? All right. What I found was $2.3 trillion in revenue that sports brings in.
I know that 800.
I guess 1 trillion.
Yeah, you're close there? Okay, who feels like they got the most answers right? I feel like you got a couple there. Anybody do better than like two right? All right, we'll give you this book here. Unless Jason got it.
I did not. No, I did not. I'll be honest.
Okay. I highlight that just to tell you the impact and the influence of sports around the world. We think of all the different industries. You could think of media, arts and entertainment. You could think of education. You think of other types of areas and domains of culture and society. And sports carries this deep weight of influence throughout the world. And I think that's what brings a few of us here together as well. That it has an impact and had an influence on our life. And so what does that mean for us as, I believe many of us might call ourselves Christian? How might we look at sports? What does that look like? So I want to just dive into this really briefly, is this idea of a theology of sport. This is something that we teach at the Faith and Sports Institute, and this is something that we think through and process as we read literature and as we read some of the commentators out there of what is sport as we look at it from a biblical lens in our experience. So as we think of our own personal journeys, we probably have a unique relationship with sports growing up in the church. I'm assuming that because you're here, you played many sports or you've been involved in sports. As we talked about those who are in sports, there's a large number of people. But there's always been this interesting relationship between the church or the Bible and sports and how we interact with it. And so you might fall into one of these categories as I explain it. In the first category, we have this top left column. We have sports here, we have faith here. And this is a predominant reality for a lot of us where we feel that there really is no relation between sport and faith, or sport in the church or sport in the Bible. I do sport over here, I carry out my faith over here, and they just kind of live on two different entities. Or we might be in this top right column, and we may have experienced this within the church and in some of the challenges, and that sport is actually versus and clashes with faith. That as I go to church or I engage in sports, they actually conflict with one another. My pursuit of sport conflicts with my pursuit of faith, or vice versa. And then on the bottom left, this actually might be more of the fan experience, but I think this can be a reality for us who are passionate about sports. Sports in some ways trumps our faith, and it becomes bigger than our faith. Though we live our faith, sports has claimed this larger piece of our life, and in some ways could be an idol in our life. And so we have this idolatry of sports because of what it is and what it has represented in our lives. But then there's this fourth area that we want to consider, where faith influences everything and influences our sport and our life in sport, where it's not one against the other or versus the other or distinctly outside of the other, but faith is integrated with the other. And so as I shared that, I was going to put up a little Mentimeter to kind of get a poll and a gauge, but because our group is a bit on the smaller side, I just want to kind of just raise of hands of who feels, as you think about your own athletic and sports journey or your interaction with sports, your thoughts about sports, who's ever been in that top left corner where sports and faith, they kind of live in two different worlds? Okay, you got one, you got two, you got three. Okay, you got a few there. Who's lived on the top right side, sports versus faith, where it's conflicted? Okay, you got one back there, one right here. Yep, absolutely. How about this idea that sports has become in some ways, whether we want to admit it or not, bigger than our faith, bigger than our pursuit of God? Yep, okay, that's actually a very popular one right there. Who feels like they've been successful in integrating faith and sports? Okay, we got a few thoughts right there. And so it's interesting we think of that dynamic, and I think we want to keep that in the framework of our minds too, of those that we go to minister to. They're going to have a different, unique relationship with sports. How can we present the gospel in a way that it actually connects with their faith and is not distinctly different than their faith? Because I think sometimes we enter into that world where I'm going to go and do ministry using sports, but sports is there, I'm all about the gospel. sometimes we miss the opportunity to actually make that beautiful link. There is a beautiful link in that. So with that, let me share with you a bit of a sports theology, or theology of sports. We're going to go through this very common kind of biblical narrative of creation, fall, redemption, reconciliation. As we think of the beginning of the Bible, we think of Genesis, we see that he created everything. He created everything good. And as everything is created good, both human beings and all creation, sport in all of its facets, when we strip it down to its core, is good. Have you ever thought about sport, though? What is sport? Can anybody define what sport is? What is sport?
Organized physical activity,
Okay.
competition.
Yeah, I think that's really close. Yeah, organized physical activity with competition. Anybody have something different than that?
Play.
Okay, yeah, there's an essence of play there, for sure. So I wrote down here, sport is an organized game that is played with common rules, so common rules that you revolve around, with a competitive component geared towards wins and losses. So there's the wins and losses. Compare that to game. What is a game? What do you think? What's a game compared to a sport?
Recreational activity,
Yeah.
they're not necessarily winners or losers.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're engaged in this process of playing with others, making some common rules, but there's some competition, but not always saying you're a winner, I'm a loser. You can step onto a playground and play some games. When we strip that down, though, where's the foundation of games? Games come from play. So what is play? For this, I draw my own experience, and I'd encourage you to kind of think of what is your various earliest memory of play. For me and my kids, is they're like an infant trying to figure out how to walk, they just pick up a ball and roll it. That's play. As they get a little bit older, they'd start playing tag. It's play. As they hit the playground, there's no organization there. There's no competitiveness there. They're running up and down the playground. They're going down the slide. It's play. And what we want to say is that at the very essence of play, as you think of it, there's a beauty there. There's goodness there. And it's an aspect of God in that he created us to play. Some theologians actually would say that as God created the world, he actually played as he designed and the whole world. And that is some other theologians wrestle against that. That's just too infantile to think of God just playing with creation. But I think there might be some truth in that. Because if we're made in the image of God and we have this essence of play from birth, then there's this aspect of play within us that we want to engage with. But then we have this idea of what went wrong. What went wrong along the way? Why is play moved into games, into competition? Now we see brokenness and hurt. That's where we enter this biblical narrative of the fall. And we see this kind of plague the aspect of sport and play and games, where now we see greed, anger, lust, debauches, lifestyles, hurt, pain. There's injuries. There's experiences of great highs, but there's these experiences of great lows where we feel defeated and hurt and broken. There's these wonderful opportunities to pursue sport, but then there's these opportunities that just take us away from the good aspects of life. So you can maybe even look at your own experience in sport and think of those great opportunities, and then all of a sudden see some of the fall within that. As I look at the sports culture, I think it's pretty easy to see where some of the brokenness is in the world. And as I now think of my kids, okay, they started with play, now they've moved on into a little bit of the game. Now competition's entered the way. Now I see my son, who's just 3 years old, shoving his sister to the ground. And I want that ball. Or I'm going to run to the top of this slide and get there before you because I want to beat you. And so you see this aspect of some of the brokenness that we see in sport. But then the biblical narrative kind of goes on, redemption. If God's about redeeming the whole world, does he actually have a heart for sports? Does he want to redeem sports? Is he all about reclaiming, renewing, redeeming the world of sports? And for me, I would say absolutely. Sport is his creation, a gift by him for us. We see the brokenness within it, but we see also the redemption of what Christ did on the cross to renew and reclaim it for his good and his beauty. And so this provides a bit of a framework of how we can see sports in a way that it has a purpose. Not sure about you, I know growing up, some of my church experience was, you know what, sports is just play, it's just a game, don't focus on it, really just focus on your faith. Faith is all that's important. No, sport isn't just a game for me, it's not just play for me, it's actually something important to me. It's how I use my body, how I express in many ways. I was talking to the gentleman who's sharing about the arts in ministry. And I was like, you know what? I love the connection between arts and ministry with sports and ministry because they come together the same way. The sports is an art in some ways. As we use it, as we engage in it, it's a beautiful form of artwork. And so with that, what's this reconciliation process look like? And so we come with passages like the Great Commission. We are invited to be to make disciples of all nations, baptized in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. And so with that, we become signposts of God's redemption. And we actually like to use that within our ministry is signposts. What is that signpost? It kind of directs people towards a new direction. Directs people towards God. We are given this message of reconciliation. So we have this mandate, this opportunity to renew and reconcile the world. And to reconcile the world of sports as well. With what it is and what it has become. And then this is where we kind of bring it into our conversation today about mission, ministry, outreach, as we are called to be witnesses near and far, as we see in Acts. And so how can sport be an opportunity to be a witness within sports as well as to those in the globe? As I go through that, are there any questions, thoughts, feelings that you kind of think about that narrative and how it overlays onto our sporting experience? Yes?
When you were laying a foundation with the various diagrams or so, I was just concerned, I don't know what's going to be your take on that, with Christians who focus on sports that on Sunday mornings, instead of being in service or in church,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they are playing some kind of sport. I don't know what's
Yeah.
your take on that and how reconcile being a Christian,
Yeah,
waking up early morning to go to school
Mhm.
instead of going to church.
yeah, absolutely. I'll give you my perspective, my thoughts as I've thought through and
Yeah,
thought
your
about it.
perspective
Yeah.
or how it connects with everything you're telling us about.
Absolutely. I think it depends on the individual and their journey and their walk. I think as we walk with the Lord, He convicts us in different ways. Sometimes we have to say no to sports and yes to our local church. Or sometimes He says, you know what, there's an opportunity to be in your sport, and as we'll jump into, to be missional in your sport. The church, I value and I believe, and we need the local church. But I don't think it's one or the other, but I think it can be one and the other. There are, I think, opportunities in our journey where we do need to say no and go to church. There's opportunities where, you know what, I can do church on a different day of the week, and I can participate in sports on this day and have an opportunity to actually be missional in ministry. And so it's not, I think, a clean cut yes or no, but it's a complicated one in some ways. Of what is God's call for us to be His people? What is the purpose of the church? We have to ask that question. What is the local church? And what does it look like to live out our faith? Not just Sunday, but Monday through Saturday as well as Sunday. And so there's tensions in there. And I'm not going to say to someone, no, you can't do sports on Sunday. But I want you to think about that. Is this the best for your journey or walk with God? Or is it better for you to, if you idolize sport, is it better for you to say, Lord, I hand it over to you. I need to be with my fellow Christians. Yes?
Honestly, that is a struggle that I've had, especially with children who play competitive sports.
Mhm.
And I feel like I made some major errors early on because they would do really well,
Yeah.
you know, in a tournament, but then if they make it to the championship game on Sunday, well, just tell your team you can't be there. Like,
Yeah.
that was my mindset.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I begin to challenge myself with is thinking through, how do we really define what the church is?
Mhm.
And in a very narrow sense, if you say the church is the place where you gather and there's music being played and you have, you know, this official gathering, I think you really miss what it means to be the church.
Mhm.
In a very real sense, you know, I think where 2 or 3 are gathered together, you know, in his name, you have, in a very real sense, what church looks like. Not this institutionalized form that we made very rigid in terms of checking a box that you've been faithful to God.
Mhm.
But in that sense, I think a great discipleship opportunity is raising up coaches and individuals who can create a community, you can call it a team,
Yeah. Yeah.
where they can be discipled. And very much in real life, you can have church at a tournament,
Mhm.
at anywhere. And so I don't think that it's just something that we can draw lines and say, you're either going to church or you're going to play sport.
Mhm.
But sport can be another form of worship in church.
Absolutely. And I believe as well that sport itself can be the embodiment of sport as we kind of keep our eyes on Christ is a worshipful practice. There can be a worshipful practice.
Yeah, I hope I'm not wasting your time. Just thank you, Marlon, for the way you explain it. I mean, it makes sense from that perspective. And I think that should be one of the focuses of those of us who are either leading these kids, you know, helping them to know that, hey, as if they don't profess Christianity yet, we have the obligation to lead them to that place. But if they already profess Christianity, then we cannot allow them to lose sight of their own responsibility to God also as Christians. So we may be in an environment that does not encourage, you know, faith, but they just want you to focus on your game.
Yeah.
And that is where you come in as that coach who is also a Christian leader. Say, hey, as much as this is competitive and this is where we want you to be, but you can leave God out in the process. So we bring God along with them so that, you know, they don't lose out.
So I actually think you're hitting on some of the things I'm about to jump into here.
I'm sorry.
Okay? No, it's okay. It's a great precursor to some this idea of local ministry. Yes.
I think it also depends on the role you have in your church,
Yeah.
or like the calling God has placed in your heart for ministry specifically,
Yeah.
or rather to, like, along with sports, if He's also placed a call in your heart for like to be a worship leader. Then I guess you have to put ministry first, and I guess skip some games.
Yeah. Yeah. Certainly, it's
That's
following.
what I think.
I think being faithful to the Lord and everything that we do. Absolutely. So yeah, let me jump into this. Maybe I'll kind of give you some perspectives on this. So as I thought about it and worked in ministry for many years, I often like to think of there's two avenues that we want to think of: local ministry as well as global ministry. There's a ministry to sports and to the world of sports, and then there's ministry through sports. And so what I mean by that is, as we think of ministry to sports, we are called to meet people in sports and called to serve the people in sports. And so we're looking at the individuals that are engaged in sports, and we're serving them and ministering to them as they're participating in that. And so what that actually looks like, and let me see if I have it on the slide. Yeah. What that can look like is through mentorship. It could be discipleship, evangelism opportunities, as you're sharing the gospel with them. Could be through chaplaincy opportunities and programs as you're serving them. As I think locally here, a lot of our sports teams have, as you mentioned, it can be an opportunity to have church on the sports team, to have a chaplain there to serve them. And so what you're caring for is the individual in that sport, and that's what sports can be an opportunity for. Is that sport is a drawing point where you bring people in, and you can speak the language of sport to be able to minister to those inside sports. And so on the sports to, or ministry to sports reality, that's a lot of the relational components of ministry and local ministry, is befriending others and sharing your faith with them. When we think about ministry through sports, it's utilizing this platform, this opportunity that sports provides for ministry. It's kind of using this language of sports across barriers and be able to serve different areas and cultures, that it becomes a platform where ministry can kind of flow through. And so that is largely what we look at when I think a lot of local and global opportunities when we're wanting to think of neighborhood connections and outreach, is that we can use sports and work through it because it creates, everybody's loves sports in some ways. You can grab a ball, you can put it on the field, and no matter any region around the world, you can understand what you're about to engage in and what type of play. But through that, it becomes a connecting point to be able to share the gospel with others. And so from our time here, we're largely going to focus mostly on this ministry through sports. But within there, there's ministry to the world of sports and to the athletes within it, as you think of. And so I want you to kind of think through a bit of those two frameworks. So this is maybe where you're coming from, and this is actually a missional community model that I really appreciate. And so for the next little bit here, we're going to share with you a few missional models that I've experienced, that Jason's experienced, and hopefully gives you some insights and ideas of perhaps how you can do this within your own context. As we were thinking about our time here, we're wanting to think about our neighborhoods, our local communities, but also global missions and ministry as well. So we're going to touch on the local aspect and some of the opportunities, but also think globally. How can we think about embracing the opportunity to use sport as an opportunity to meet the world with the gospel? And so in this first part, we're going to local ministry and outreach ministry. Local missions and outreach ministry. And so with this, I love David Fitch, this author here of Faithful Presence. Has anybody read this book before? Seen this book? Okay. Yeah, he's all about missional communities and what it looked like to be a missional community in our churches, in our homes. What does it look like to carry out the mission of God within our neighborhoods and our communities that we reside in? And so he has a bit of this model, which I think is actually beautiful, and I've seen this play out in different ways in my own life. But I think this can be a model for the church as we think of sports ministry. For me to describe it, you can pick up his book and kind of walk through it. But he has these three different circles. He has the closed circle, the dotted circle, and then the half circle. And so let me describe to you what these three different circles represent. The closed circle is the local gathering of the church, where you gather as the body of Christ, where you worship and honor God, where you feel the presence of God in your local community, your church community. He would say that individuals need to be in all three of these spaces. So you need to be in a local church. You need to be a part of a body of Christ that worships and honors God together. That's important. That's inherent. Because as you worship God, you honor Him. It's the biblical mandate to gather and worship. That needs to be important. But then we know that the church isn't just the building, but it's the movement of the people as they go outwards. And so you'd say, the next circle is the dotted circle. And this is largely you hosting the presence of God in your own comfortable community. And so within church groups, it would look like small groups meeting at homes, where you would welcome the presence of God there, and you break bread, you'd have community, and you're moving the presence of God from just the church building facility to more our homes. And in some ways that can move to workplaces or sports fields where there's common believers that are gathered together and you're worshiping together and you're breaking bread and feeling and seeing the presence of God there. So he says that needs to be a second area that missional community needs to work. The third area is this half circle where you are actually guests in different spaces. Where you as a guest are bringing and hopefully can bring the presence of God into those spaces, but you're not the one hosting the presence of God. And so where this played out beautifully in my life, not necessarily in the sport context, but in a home group context, in the community that I was living in, we were living in these townhouses, new build, new families. I wanted to get to know our neighbors, so I invited them over. We had dinner together. There's probably 3 or 4 families there. And I asked them, is it okay if I can pray for a meal? And it's like, absolutely, yeah. It's your home, you can do what you like. And so they welcomed it. Non-Christians, all of them. And not believers. Next month later, they said, well, we want to host a dinner at our house. So why don't you come over to our house? And so, awesome, wonderful. We're building community here. So we went over to their house. It was beautiful, it was wonderful. And I wasn't expecting anything, that they would cater to our faith traditions. But they said, hey, Isaac, you're a Christian, right? Yeah, I am. Do you want to pray for a meal? Do you want to just bless our meal? Like, I'd love to. In some ways, that was a beautiful kind of manifestation of this. I wasn't expecting it, wasn't looking for it. I was hoping for it, for sure. But it was, I guess, welcoming me into their home where I could bring the presence of God into. And so as I think of sports, I think this can be a beautiful model as well. As we gather as a church, sometimes we like to bring sports to our facilities, and I think there's opportunities there. But sometimes we need to bring sports out into the community, into our local neighborhoods, where we can actually pray together, break bread together and snacks, and engage as the body of Christ in the community. But then we can bring it even further and be guests into another community and hopefully bring the presence of God there as well. And so what that looks like for me, coming from Athletes in Action, is a bit of a different model. Similar, but slightly different. In the Athletes in Action soccer model that we had done for many years, we want to pursue this idea of faith adventure experiences. We want to inspire people to experience the power of the Holy Spirit so that they would discover the love of Jesus Christ. And so these three phases that we would encourage our leaders to do would be, you know what, we love watching sports. As we mentioned, 3.5 to 4 billion people around the world watch soccer. It could be Premier League, it could be anything. Why not have people over and just enjoy soccer together? Maybe in the middle of it, you can just share life, talk about the Bible, connect with each other. Then this idea was, okay, now that we have this common love for sports and soccer, why don't we actually go and play in the community? Why don't we just put on this pickup game, invite the community members in, and we'll just engage in soccer together and live out our faith as we love the game of soccer. But then we just didn't want this to be an organic piece, but we wanted some intentionality to it. So let's actually, since we love watching soccer, love playing soccer, let's gather together. And you know what? As we're watching soccer, let's actually study the Bible together. Let's study God's Word together. Let's grow in our faith together. Let's practice some disciplines or practice our faith. And so there's this intentional reality of gathering to study together. And so I think this became a beautiful model. Again, missional community, local community, serving God in the church through small groups, through, again, the platform of sports to gather, to break bread, to study God's Word and grow in our faith. And each participant was going through that, they'd be going on this faith adventure, hopefully being inspired, experiencing the power of the Holy Spirit, wanting to invite others into that process and journey as well. And so those are a couple models that I just wanted to present and share with you as what local ministry can kind of look like. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Jason, who will give you a few other local ministry. You want me to tap it for you? Or?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man. So yeah, we know that soccer is the most popular in the world, but we know that basketball is God's favorite sport. So, we use
a reference for that?
What's that? Biblical? I haven't found it yet. Somebody told me.
Actually, if you want a biblical reference, I've been told by my Athletes in Action wrestling colleagues that
true, that's
wrestling
true.
was God's first sport.
It was the first one. That's true. Yeah. So Hoops for Hope International is an umbrella organization. Underneath that, there's a division that does, or a part of the ministry that does international trips. And there's also one that does local. And this Hoops Huddle model is what you would do if you went on a foreign trip, but you have the opportunity to do it locally. So let's say you've got somebody in your church that they can't hammer a nail, they're going to hit their thumb. They can't hold a tune, so they can't sing in the choir. But they're like, basketball? Yeah, I can do some basketball. I'd love to do some basketball. So Hoops Huddle gives people in the church an opportunity to find their niche in terms of way to serve. So 18-week program follows the school calendar every Wednesday night while parents are doing marriage stuff, or there's a men's Bible study. the kids have an opportunity to go and play some basketball. Volunteer coaches, we train the coaches, we show them what to do, and we're not talking about like complicated skills and drills, basic stuff, real basic stuff. They're trained, they're ready to go, they have a curriculum to follow, and they do that curriculum, and they do some fun skills and drills. And it's amazing what happens is there's one at Highland, one at Columbus here in town, and again, the mixture of what sports does when you can see non-church and church kids and families coming together. And it also, again, gives people that may not be able to serve anywhere else in the church somewhere to serve. So sports just really finds a way to bring all those people together. So that's a local ministry that we do through Hoops for Hope. Upward Sports, you may have heard of Upward. It's been around 25, 30 years. My kids all did Upward. I coached, ref, did everything I could do in Upward. Absolutely loved it. A little different model in terms of they're going to do a practice one night a week, and then they're going to have games on Saturdays, right? So a little more organized in terms of games. You probably have to have somebody that is somewhat skilled in basketball, maybe a little bit of coaching. They give you a book and that kind of thing, but it can be a little intimidating to suddenly have, especially if you get some of the older boys or older girls that are maybe closer to junior high. But Upward's a great model. Again, kids, families, and that's what's really cool is when we did Upward at Columbus, you would look into the bleachers and there are people talking that would probably never cross paths with each other while their son or daughter is playing or warming up. So it brings churches together to use sports. And now it started with just basketball, but they have cheerleading, soccer, they have, I think, volleyball now. So they've just really branched out. So that's another kind of a local way that you could use sports. If you haven't heard of Upward, check them out, upward.org. So now I want to kind of broaden things out. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, a question here. Yeah. What have y'all heard about? Want to hear what you've got and what you've seen work in local sports ministry.
Yeah, for Jason and I, we don't think we're the perfect experts in all of these things.
No.
We think in this room as well, you guys have some insights and knowledge as well from your own experience. And so we wanted to invite you, if you have a thought or idea or a ministry model that you've pursued and embraced that's worked for local ministry.
All I know is I used to work at the YMCA, and I used to watch the basketball team and stuff like that. And all the people, like you say, everybody crosses, which would never cross before, but they start feeling like a family or like a village, and that's what we need.
Yep.
And have a village for, God, everybody being and cooperating with each other and loving on each other and, hopefully having good sports behavior, because there's a lot of bad sportsmanship with these new kids nowadays. You gotta nip it in the bud.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
So true.
You guys are you are so organized, which I love. If you were to come to Africa right now and you just tell the local community leader or the pastor, I want to meet the youth or the children of this community, he will just organize a soccer game, and that's it. You will get all the kids that you need to do your ministry.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have all the organization, but we know what to use to get.
Yep. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It can be as simple as that. It doesn't need to be large.
I was in college in the Dallas area. OCBF would host, Oak Bible Fellowship.
Oh, okay.
Would host like these Friday night basketball events.
Okay.
And you would go, and the games would be like 10 minutes long. And in between each game, they would break and pray. And then at the end of the night, they would bring in like a D1 athlete or a former pro, put 10 minutes on the clock, and they had 10 minutes to speak to everybody who was there.
Cool.
Yeah, within our Athletes in Action group, there's like faith nights when you would gather together for specific sports or high-level professional sports, where you would be all about communicating the gospel at some point, some way within that. Again, using the platform of sports as a faith night to gather people together.
Yeah, pick up basketball, noon groups, there's just so many different ways. Golf outings, a great way for men or women to get in a foursome, and you're spending 4 hours with somebody you get to know pretty well. Sometimes in the scrambles it's 4 or 5 hours. So Yeah, lots of different ways. Yeah, we are by no means the experts, just giving you some examples and some kind of things to kind of get you thinking. So let's kind of jump to the global perspective now, and that's what Hoops was originally founded for. Mark Weibel, the CEO and founder, had this. Somebody approached him and said, "Hey, we're going to Morocco, and we're going to do a VBS, but we also are thinking, why don't we do a basketball camp?" And so, yeah, that's kind of where Hoops was born, and it was a vision of Mark's. And one of the great things about Hoops for Hope is that there's a model in place, not only for the basketball portion, but for people traveling for the first time. So the perfect example is you've got somebody that, y'all do Hoops Huddle, so they go and do Hoops Huddle during the school year, and they're doing all the basic skills and drills, and they go, man, I really got this down. I'm ready to go on an international trip. So then they go on an international trip, and they're doing those exact same skills and drills, and they feel comfortable because now it's through a translator, it's across the ocean, they've traveled, but it kind of builds up their confidence. And so as you're starting to do a basketball mission trip or any mission trip, yeah, part of my responsibility is recruiting new partners. So whether it's in Ghana or it's in Kenya or Madagascar, we're finding partners, local church ministries. Maybe it's a church plant, FCA a lot of times. We'll partner with them. We show up, but when I say we take a team of about 6 people, just 6, and we go and they are trained, they are ready to go. When we land at that place, we're doing a camp, and we'll talk more about it. And then pre-trip preparation, yeah. You've got to, again, some people have never traveled, and this is a great opportunity for them to experience and do the Acts 1:8, you know, Judea, Samaria, beyond, and furthest parts of the earth. So there's lots of pre-trip preparation, and Hoops helps you with that. We've got that model. And then during trip plans, yeah, while you're on the ground there, you've got to have a plan in place to make sure that your time is being used efficiently. Because some of those people, if they paid their way to show up, and all that airfare, all that, they want to make sure they're having a good experience and that they're getting to do mission work. And then post-trip, yeah, a lot of times after a trip, there can be some deep valleys for people. When they come back from somewhere where the kids are running around and playing basketball barefoot, and they left and they've got 5 pairs of shoes in their closet, or they left and the kids didn't even get to eat lunch. There's a little bit of a guilt that comes from going, but we hope that when we leave hope with those kids, which is something they cannot buy, they cannot necessarily request from somewhere. It's just something that we can leave with them. So yeah, stages of a mission trip, that's what it looks like. So specifically a Hoops for Hope kind of stages, we talked a little about what Hoops is, so we'll look at that. We'll look at just a quick history of Hoops, the elements of a trip, and then what next steps would look like. So see if we can't get this video. This is Mark Weibel. He's the chaplain for Baylor basketball and the men's basketball team, and he just retired from Highland, and so he's our founder. 2004. These numbers are a little outdated, but 15,000 lives impacted, 2,300 volunteers internationally, nationally, and there's that Acts 1:8 model. That's what kind of drove him to doing Hoops, and then the goal, yeah, teach basketball with a message of hope. So this video works with him.
Hi, my name is Mark Weibel, and I want to say thank you for giving me a few minutes to introduce you to the ministry called Hoops for Hope. Since 2004, our ministry goal is to follow the Acts 1:8 model of being the witnesses for the Lord in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the uttermost parts of the earth. We take teams of 7 or 8, we go around the world, and we put on basketball camps in which we do mass ball handling, stations, competitions, and we believe that gives us the right to speak into the lives of each of the campers of the things that are important to us, the gospel of Jesus Christ. I pray that the next few moments will be informative for you. If you have any questions, if there's any way that I can help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Let me know how I can help. Be blessed.
Yeah, so Hoops, what do we do? Yeah, it's kind of our mission. International Hoops for Hope is an organization that takes team on local, national, international trips to teach fundamental. Now the model, AIA model, is awesome. There's other models where you take an all-star team, or you just take some guys or ladies and you play a 5-on-5 game. Halftime, you share your testimony, play second half, and then you move on. And as Mark was saying, we do 3, 4, 5 day camps. Take a different approach. So the people that go on our trips, they do not have to be good at basketball. We even have a station where they're doing ladders and they're doing agility. They don't have to touch a basketball to do the agility station. So very basic skills and drills. We train them. We'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, our goal is just to use basketball as a way to share hope by teaching them fundamentals, ages 8 to 18. We find that 6 or 7, they're probably struggling, 1, to get the ball up to the goal, right, and feel successful, and 2, just kind of gather and grasp some of the things that we're doing. So, and then 18, we find a lot of times they've kind of, our skills and drills are pretty basic, and so they're ready to move on to something more. So why do we do what we do? Yeah, we see the Lord using the teamwork, the gracious support of people from all backgrounds and talents to ensure the future of this organization so that others can know what it means to have hope. So that's why we go on trips. That's why we had our banquet Monday night. Did you get to go?
Yeah.
Sweet, yeah. So our banquet Monday night was awesome, great fundraiser, and that's what our goal is, and that's why we do what we can do so that people can find their place to serve. How do we do that? Yeah, again, local missions, somebody on the ground locally that has a place to, just need one basketball goal, we can make it work. We indoor or outdoor. We do a 3, 4, or 5 day camp, 50 kids in the morning, 50 different kids in the afternoon. So by the time you're not done with one day of Hoops for Hope camp, you are worn out and you're ready to go back to the hotel. We need somewhere to sleep. Sometimes it's host homes, somewhere to eat. But yeah, so we'll partner with that local mission group or church plant. 4 components. Mark mentioned it. Simple things. Mass ball handling. Every kid's going to get a basketball when they're done with a Hoops for Hope camp. We literally take 110 basketballs, air all of them up, use our own pumps, and every kid's going to walk away with a basketball and certificate. So mass ball handling, fundamental station work, contests, and then we call it, in some places we have to call it character building or becoming a better person, because if you say gospel, sometimes they won't let you in. Sometimes it turns people away. So, but ultimately we're working towards the gospel presentation. So here's just a few sites that Hoops has been to. There are many more over here, kind of in this corner here, but these are some great spots. FCA, again, a big partner in Costa Rica and Kenya. Madagascar is a relatively new site. Yeah, you were talking about playing pickup soccer. We went to Uganda, and we were doing our basketball camp in this, it's an orphanage, and then a friend of mine said, hey man, let's go out into the bush, and let's go see what we can find. And so we go trudge into the bush, and we show up, and there's this village, and the only thing they had was 2 soccer goals made out of sticks. And so we thought, man, we're going to play these guys in soccer, and they just smoked us, man. I mean, we were dead tired. So Ghana's been our longest partner. Barbados, not kind of like a vacation. No, just kidding. It's a good trip. So Ukraine was the first one I went on. I went to Ukraine for the war back in 2015, 16. Spain through Columbus Avenue, and then Regina White, great story. She was a member at Highland, and then she planted a church in Slovakia, and she said, hey, I want you to come and help us do a camp so I can grow my church. So a church member going out into the field and then using fellow church members to grow her ministry there in Slovakia. So there's a few places that we've been.
You have the videos. You want to watch all of them, or which?
Oh, let's see what we got. Yeah, what time are we supposed to finish?
Is it 12 or just before 12?
Just before 12? Oh, we got some time. Yeah, let's show them. Let's see what we've got. See if they'll work. This is from Madagascar. Mass ball handling. There's those basketballs. Every kid walks away with a basketball. There they are doing contests. We'll award medals based on passing, dribbling, shooting. There's that agility and also a contest. And there's part of the contest as well. A little box agility. Fun game called head, shoulders, knees, and toes, but using the basketball. One of the funnest games we do. This was an outdoor court. It was an old Catholic church school, and they had 2 courts. They were great. Some more skills and drills. The kid that put this video together, he is his dad was the local ministry leader. Some full court drills there. But he was excited to use his drone and make us a video, and he did a great job. Coaches get involved. That's called Last Second Hero, a great fun game that we do as well. Another big hit. There they are doing mass ball handling. And get their eyes up. You see where to pass the ball, right? They're right now. So you see the beach and the ocean back there. If you've ever been to Madagascar, it's an island off the coast of Africa.
Sorry.
And then, so this is one from, I think it's Dominican Republic. Yeah, just a quick look at a Dominican. There's the team at the airport before they leave, all kinds. We've had kids as young as 14, guys and ladies as old as 70 go into camps. So again, broad range. When we get there, we usually worship with our local ministry, go have church with them before we do camp. There they are airing out basketballs. On the last day of camp, after camp is over, we take some time to go and hang out, do the beach, go do some shopping, kind of see the culture. We have a down day. There they are doing some skills and drills. We take girl coaches. We've had two or three girl groups when we go on camp, so ladies are welcome as well. We're in uniform, you'll notice. Each day the whole team has a uniform, a shirt and shorts. We're all, there they are, traveling, getting to a site. And that was probably a day that it rained. So yeah, you deal with, especially on islands, deal with weather. So you got a squeegee, but man, it's a great experience. There's some mass ball handling. Dominican Republic, great story about girls. Yeah, there was a huge, half of the camp was girls, and they were all from abused situations. And this gentleman there and this coach had decided he wanted to specifically work with girls. There they are doing their huddle time at the end of each day of skills and drills we take down, and that's where we begin to, we think we've earned the right. We've patted them on the back about basketball. Now we're going to share the gospel with them. We believe everybody has a plan. God has a plan for you. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has a part to play in the plan. There's a plan that God has for you, and there's a place that God has for you in heaven right next to Him, and then there's a power that you can share with others, and that's the Holy Spirit. So that's kind of how we break up our curriculum.
9 hours before going into the gym.
At the end of camp, on the way home, we ask everybody to come up. I was going to flood it almost. Come up with the one word. We believe that when you come back, especially if somebody supported you, hey, how was camp? How was camp, man? Oh, well, you usually have to have that ready. So we say, hey, have one word, be ready for it. We share that with each other. So when they come back, they can talk about the trip. That was fortunately, we got a covered situation there. There they are wearing their different uniform. More mass ball handling. And yeah, the energy is amazing when we do that mass ball. There's the agility station. And there they are teaching layups. There's one hole, just a morning camp. Again, the 50 kids in the morning, 50 in the afternoon. There they are listening. The host will get up and make a presentation as well for the gospel. There's the afternoon camp. But yeah, we want to involve the local missionary or church planner, because when we leave, we don't go somewhere where when we leave there's not going to be support. We don't want a child to come to camp and go, man, I learned that I'm a sinner, and where's the hope? So we want to make sure that there's a local partner there. There they are getting their medals after they've won one of the contests. There they are wearing some medals. But yeah, we want to make sure that when we leave there's support in place for the kids and the adults that may show up as well to see their kids have somewhere to go. So there's one more, kind of a fun one. Let's see if it'll work. But yeah, this is just one little introduction as we come in. That's the camp actually welcoming the coaches to show up. And then they've got their certificates. So high energy, lots of fun. And we get translators to help with the terminology. A lot of fun. And then I think that was the last one. Yeah, so real quick, again, just to kind of put it all on one page, there's the pre-trip. Hoops helps you with that. We've had to turn away trips. We have sites where we cannot get a team of 6 to go, whether it's financially or it requires you got to take a week off vacation from work. We typically go in the summer. That's the most kind of prevalent time when people can get off work. But there's a lot of pre-trip planning that goes into going on a trip. We do an hour of orientation. Again, we get people, get ready. When you go to the airport, have your passport ready. Don't put this in your bag, put this in your bag. Also, we do 2 hours, that training, skills and drills. We just give them the basic kind of rundown. There's somebody that's leading the camp, but ultimately you're going to break up as a coach 8 to 10 kids. They're going to be your responsibility for that week. You're going to get to build a relationship with those 8 or 10 kids. They're your team for the week. So we want to make sure the coaches are ready for that. Again, get the curriculum under their belt. We'll worship when we get there, worship with the hosts like you saw, and then we'll get camp set up. Again, 50 kids in the morning, 50 in the afternoon. It's 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. 2.5 hours of skills and drills, and then 30 minutes of time opening the Word, finding their purpose, find what part they have to play. It's easy curriculum to learn. Again, if somebody it hasn't been to seminary and doesn't necessarily understand how to share the gospel, again, our curriculum is very easy to understand. The lead coach, so I would lead the trip, and I'd have a team of 6, maybe 7 going with me. And we break up into those small groups, and we talked about the 5 Ps. And Thursday is always when we share the gospel. And the great thing about that is the lead coach will share the gospel to the whole camp, and then you'll break up into your small groups, and the coach gets to share, and the translator with that small group. And then we come back, and my favorite part of each trip is to hear the gospel presented in the local native tongue. The coaches, the Americans, just get out of the way, so there's no cultural barriers, there's nothing in the way. We don't want it to be necessarily Americanized. They just get to present the gospel. So we get to hear them just share the gospel. It's so cool to hear it in something you have no idea what they're saying, but you hear little bits, you go, man, that is the gospel. That's cool, right? Team building, yeah, the team that goes, we want them to feel like it's been a great week for them. So we have devotions in the morning, during breakfast, in the evening devotionals. We eat meals together. We have a debrief, a time when you just kind of get to say, man, this little Jose this week, man, you can't believe it. I mean, he gave me a hug. Or this little girl, she couldn't even get the ball to the basket, and then she made a basket. So we get to share those little nuggets, and you get to hear from other coaches at night what's happened during camp that day. Faces of Hoops, you just kind of get to share who you are. A lot of times we'll take 3 or 4 people from Arkansas. We'll take 2 or 3 people from New Mexico. We'll take a couple from Texas. So when they get together, they've never met each other in their life. All they know is they love the Lord, they love kids, they love basketball. So we get an opportunity to kind of share with each other who they are and what their background is. And then, yeah, we want to make sure that when they go, they also get to experience the culture. Touring downtown, go and find some shopping. One of my favorite shopping items I ever got, you may know what it means, Mzungu.
Where's it from?
From Kenya.
Kenya?
Yeah.
That's Swahili speaking, I guess.
Okay. So
Mzungu means foreigner, white man.
White man, yeah. I always thought it was hilarious. So I've got the Mzungu shirt, one of my favorite shirts. So, and then so that's kind of just a whole Hoops for Hope kind of thing all in one package there, and then you can kind of see how it works. And I want you to see what we believe a lot in. Of course, there's prayer at every step. Because we think we want to go and do this trip, but we talk about flexibility. God has plans on how it's all going to work out. So at the very beginning, we're praying which site are we going to? When's it going to happen? Who's going to be our host? January, February, we start purchasing tickets. So 6 months out from the trip, we're committed, you're locked in, we're going in the summer. We make our reservations, and then we get into, again, more prayer. We fundraise, we train you, get you ready to go, and then we actually go. And then at the very end, of course, we're praying that we were able to leave hope. So that's kind of Hoops for Hope. If you want more information, yeah, you can scan this QR code that takes you to our link tree, and it's got like some more videos. Kelly Gross is our administrative assistant. There's Mark Weibel. I can give you these phone numbers, and there's my information as well. So glad to answer questions. Want to hear what y'all think about stuff today, how we can help. Yeah, that's Hoops for Hope, and that's Faith Sports Institute kind of put together.
Yeah,
right?
merged together. And
Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I served in Madagascar where you were in Fort Dauphin.
Oh,
for 7
really?
years.
Fort Dauphin?
So
All
I
right.
just texted with Mommy Tina. He says hi.
Oh, no way. What's your name again?
Adam Hells.
Okay,
So-
all right. Yeah,
Yeah,
Mom-
Mommy Tina there says hi. So,
yeah,
you
cool,
guys-
yeah. That was his son that made us
Yeah,
our,
made a video, Fitaina.
yeah, Nafita. Cool. What'd you do there when y'all went?
I was a church planner.
Sweet. Cool, man. Awesome. Yeah, great guy. He could be president someday of
He's
Madagascar,
very
right?
charismatic and
Yeah.
dynamic.
What else? Questions or comments or? Yes, sir.
I got a weird brain, so I ask crazy questions sometimes.
Well, I'm sorry. I know you have a weird brain because you got a cowboy shirt on, so I know. No, I'm just kidding.
Do you think there are certain sports that God is against?
Against?
Yeah, doesn't support one certain kind of sport.
Well, I'll kind of start with that, and I know he's probably got some comments on it too. I will say that, you know, obviously we know soccer is the most popular sport, but when we show up with basketballs, I mean, basketball's growing around the world, and with Luka and all these foreign players. So I don't know if God doesn't necessarily like any sports, but I do know that some sports are just growing in popularity. I don't know, maybe there's some he doesn't like because it causes, I don't know, if you consider UFC a sport, maybe he's not a big fan of, you know, that, but what are your comments?
No, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on?
Well, I don't know. Some sports, I may be wrong, but some sports look so violent to me. I don't think God supports the violence. I think that's where I'm going. Violence is a certain kind of sport. That
Interesting.
People, sometimes people like almost kill each other in sports, and that's my worry.
Certainly, we see the tension for the Apostle Paul when you think about gladiator times. There's when the church has tried to differentiate itself from the Roman rule and gladiator kind of battles, and said no, we don't believe in that. And so it's kind of the history of sports has been interesting. I'd say there's certain sports that perhaps God would say, this is probably not healthy. It's probably not uplifting. We could probably have a deeper conversation. There's a lot of growing literature on that area. Okay, how do we think theology and the UFC or martial arts? Because on one end, there's beauty in martial arts when used properly, because it produces discipline. As again, the art form of martial arts, there's beauty there. But then the combat and the battle, there could be some conversations and nuances in that.
Are you not entertained?
Yeah.
And I think too, in all sports, there's a possibility of death. You know, it happens in football, it happens in basketball. So if it's necessarily something where you have a chance of dying, but I know there are some sports where the goal is almost, destroy the other person. So that's a great question, man.
'Cause I know those within some martial arts sports or in combat sports. They go into the arena with this competitive reality, but then afterwards there could be best friends.
Yeah.
And there's this competition, because the word competition is this unique word of striving together. So competition is a negative thing, but it can actually push and grow you as a person. So there's, again, nuances and dynamics. There was a question back there and here. Go ahead.
I was going to ask if you ever train local churches to do the ministry that you do, so that there's a more permanent presence in the local community.
Oh, got you. So let's say like in Madagascar or somewhere, do we train them to do what we do after we leave?
Yeah.
Great question. So what happens a lot of times is they love it so much they go, hey, can you send us the curriculum? We want to do it over, and we do. Yeah, we're glad to share a PDF with them. They can print it. Now, we can't get them necessarily more basketballs, but yeah, the actual structure of it, for sure. Now, what our ultimate goal is that there would be some hoops huddle, the local set up in those places. But sometimes, like that one in Ghana, Ghana, they've done so many camps that we don't have to go back. They have their own camps in the summer because we've been there so much. Is that kind of what you're asking? Yeah, yeah.
Say on the Athletes in Action side, so I have been on a number of tours with Athletes in Action, soccer tours across the world, and one of their big passions is not just to be a parachute in, kind of parachute out reality, but it is going in, investing in the local community, in the leaders there, training, developing, modeling some ways, but also inviting to contextualize what does this look like in your environment. And this might be something that we're bringing in that has worked in different spaces that we use, but what actually makes sense for your area, and allowing them to really embrace it and take it as their own instead of saying, no, you have to do it this way. This is the best way. And the West is not necessarily the best all the time. So that's kind of, we've seen that model as well. And that's the intention, that we go into a region, support, develop, train, disciple, so that we can move on to other regions. Yeah.
So, two questions. The first is just in terms of the cost of volunteering with your organizations. What is that cost? The second is just, I'd just love to hear your opinion on, but something that I feel like sports has done a better job than the church is bringing people together. You know, whatever your favorite sports team is, you can go to, you know, an NFL game, and you have people from different political backgrounds, different religious beliefs, and they're all on the same accord, cheering for the same team, hoping for the same thing. And they never discuss all of the issues that are there.
Yeah.
But they're just, you know, in a space together, and in a sense, you know, just loving everybody who has this same connection. And I don't know, it's just something I thought about. I don't know if there's any theology behind that concept.
You want to answer the
Yeah, let's do the first part. So Hoops Huddle is basically $20 a kid. The basketball's $10, and then we print those books. Now the church can print the books themselves if they want, but you're looking at $20 per kid for basketball and that curriculum for that 18 weeks. Now some churches will actually feed the kids before. Maybe there's a Wednesday night meal, that kind of thing. So that's kind of how Hoops Huddle works. Internationally, yeah, I mean, they're typically our least expensive trip is $2,200, $2,000, but then some are, you know, $3,300, $3,500. The goal of Hoops is to never turn anybody away, and they never have. That's why we have fundraisers. That's why we have donors, people that support Hoops, not only so they can exist, but so that people can go on trips. Now, we encourage people. We tell people, hey, we want you to fundraise. You'll appreciate it more. You'll get more people involved. So the trips just vary in cost based on airfare and where we're going, but there's some basic stuff. Every basketball is $10. The set of medals are $3. We do wristbands to put them in teams. Those are, you know, 5 cents a piece. So there's some fixed cost, but the majority of it is airfare. But we do our best to help with that as well and find trips where we can take advantage of being a mission organization. So does that kind of answer your question? Yeah. But yeah, our goal is never turn anybody away, and they never have. Some people have paid their whole way. Some people have just paid a little bit, and people pay it out over time. We don't ask them to, you know, 12 months no interest. You know, we just say, if you want to just be a supporter of Hoops, that's the way you can go on a trip. So yeah.
Yeah, and then on the power of sports, again, coming back to that, it has that potential to gather, to cross barriers, to cross divides, differences. When we think of the sport itself, I actually believe it is a language that can speak to different people. That when you, like I said, when you have that ball, it could be a basketball, it could be a soccer ball, you could just put 2 cones on the ground and have a race, and you're running with others. And you don't necessarily look at their background and figure out who are they, where they come from, where they believe, but you can just be moving together. And in some ways, that I think is a beautiful aspect, and I believe there will be sports in heaven because it's part of God's creation that we can compete together and love one another through the avenue of sports. But even in the history of sports, sports has been used as a powerful, and I think we see this throughout sports history and culture and Christianity, that it has a platform. And especially nowadays, it has a bigger platform. And so when we think of the redemption and reconciliation of the world, what can that platform provide to be able to move the gospel forward? I think there's powerful opportunities there that can cross divides, but also bring people together and accept people with where they're at.
Sure can't divide though, right?
It can.
It's crazy, you know, Cowboys
You just-
fans,
I know, you just talk about
Eagles
Cowboys.
fans.
Yeah. No, our time is running here. Any last questions before we wrap up? All right, and so for Jason and I, there's a couple contact information, details there if you want to grab that. But we also wanted to mention this one event that both Jason and I have been to. It's largely for our local church, local ministries. It's called Reach Gathering. And it's actually this year down in San Antonio. Last year it was in Ohio. The year before that was in North Carolina. But this is for sport, recreational, and lifestyle ministries. And they gather every year to support one another, to encourage, to inspire, to share ministry opportunities and
Worship.
models, and worship together along the way. And play games and do a whole lot of fun. So yeah, if you're interested in that, San Antonio, March 16th to 18th. In just a number of months here. So great opportunity to find that. With that, thanks for joining. Thanks for coming to our workshop. We hope you gathered something from it.